They have a lot of positions we talked about on your podcast the other day on your channel about just how many positions there aren't available for the Cleveland Browns, and some of these younger guys that they drafted are going to have an uphill battle making this roster. First, can we start off by talking about what position groups you feel are kind of an uphill battle to make this roster, and are any guys? What's your number one candidate that possibly could be a guy that's a casualty? If the numbers don't fall their correct way.
I mean, there's just rooms that are full on this team, like edge, where they haven't even tried to act like they're going to add anybody at edge because there's no space, right?
Yeah.
Defensive tackle is a tough room to make. I think corner is a tough room to make at this point. Safety is an incredibly tough room to make because you're not just talking about the three guys that they start. You're also factoring in Ronnie Hickman, who played well for a rookie last year, and D'Anthony Bell, who is a second-year player, but both times he's had to come in. We've liked what we've seen from D'Anthony Bell, right? So he has some promise there too. So that's 5 dudes like already that you feel fine about if they have to start a game at the safety position. If you go on the offensive side of the ball, tackle has more room than guard or center, right? Guard and center is jam-packed in this Browns room. And honestly, we talking about tackle not being jam-packed. We got a all-pro on the bench this year, more than likely. Yeah, somebody on a all team is going to be on the bench, either the all rookie team or the all pro team, right? And then you have quarterbacks even jam packed, right? When you talk about Tyler Huntley and DTR battling out for what is the 3rd spot. And then running back, I would say there's probably room there, but not room for just any running back. Like room for if there was a good running back, right? Like somebody who could be better than Donta Foreman, but that's not anybody you're going to pick up at this point. So for that purpose, yeah, the room's packed there. The roster's just jam packed. You can point at almost anything. Wide receiver, I think tight end is a place where they have room to add people if they wanted to. Linebacker, and then after that, it's kind of full.
Yeah, it's up in the air, man. You look at some of these positions, man, and I think even with the receiver room, you're talking about, and you heard Andrew Berry say this a little bit later, 11 personnel is something, and they're going to look to kick up a little bit in terms of having 3 wide receivers. So even you look at the wide receiver room, I mean, are you saying that, that's why, a lot of times people were a little upset that you didn't draft a receiver, but as you look at it in hindsight, is that receiver going to be able to come in and beat out Elijah Moore for playing time? Is that receiver going to be able to come in and beat 2 guys? I mean, David Bell looks like one of those guys that's in your room that he doesn't, he may not wow you on camera, but David Bell looks like one of them dudes that when you on the whiteboard or in the classroom, he knows every position. he don't make no mistakes. So it's kind of hard. You got to make extra plays over top of extra plays to get some of these positions. And even when the ones that we think are nailed down, or a little bit of a position, a little bit of opening, like how many tight ends they're going to carry? They usually carry 3. I don't think they're going to carry, 4 tight ends, 3 tight ends. They may carry 2. So with that being said, we kind of transition to who could be some of the early cut candidates. And you look at the contracts and you look at, all right, well, who has a bunch of money, who has that it counts towards the cap, but there's not a lot of dead cap money on the opposite end of the spectrum. Who is a guy that you could see that's saying, okay, well, one of these young dudes comes in, wows you, cheap, and they could be, a veteran can see themselves kind of out of a position?
Well, he's not a veteran, but like Siaki Ike is one that I find interesting because Javon Briggs is a big body out of Cincinnati, strong guy. I think he did 40 reps on the bench press. Mm-hmm. So super strong guy, can do some of the stuff that you want Ike to do. He's not a tremendous athlete, but he's a fine enough athlete at that position. And if he puts some things together, he might be able to make a compelling argument for himself to make the roster. We talked about that defensive tackle room already being jam-packed when you talk about Maurice Hurst is going to make the team. Shelby Harris is going to make the team. Quentin Jefferson is going to make the team. And then Dalvin Tomlinson obviously going to make the team. Michael Hall going to make the team. Like, we already have 5 guys there. It's maybe you could carry a 6, but like carrying 6 DTs is a little crazy, right? Like sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. And it's crazy to think about like where this defensive tackle room was a couple of years ago, and the fact that they might be carrying 6 guys, and it's a tough cut down. It's crazy, but yeah, there's like maybe one spot left. And Ika's battling it out there with Javon Briggs, and I think Javon's gonna give him a pretty good run for his money.
Yeah, to me, that's the number one I would go to. I don't think they were too. He was a healthy scratch a lot of times during the season, and even when Mo Hurst went down, they really didn't move to give him more playing time. It was like more of a situation where it was just like, okay, well, we'll try to find some other things that we can lean our hat on to get some guys in the rotation. I look at it like a guy like I don't know, Tony Fields. He's not a splash name, but he plays. He's played some. He's on special teams. If a guy like Devin Bush, who they've taken a flyer on, makes a couple plays or looks like he can be back to his rookie year, his season when he played for the Steelers. I don't, him and Muhammad Diabate. I think those three will compete for some playing time and compete for roster positions. I think the only thing that helps them is the fact that the linebacker position is very thin at this point. So they'll have an opportunity to kind of make their way and make their hay a little bit. And then other than that, I don't know. I'll get your take on this. I don't. What about Hudson? I don't know if James Hudson is. He's penciled in as the second tackle. Either on the right or the left side. What are your thoughts on James Hudson? Is there any possibility they keep more talented guys inside and leave him off, or do you think that they're pretty much going to put him back on the roster because he is a second string tackle?
No, I think they'll find a way to keep him on the roster. They have Jermaine Ifedi in there to kind of be a flip between guard and tackle, right? Because Jermaine played both guard and tackle. Jermaine Ifedi. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the plan. I think his spot's pretty safe there because Jack Conklin's there does kind of complicate things. So maybe they feel like Jermaine could just be the one guy to hold it down. But I think they're going to value that ability to flip sides for James Hudson, mm-hmm. and then kind of hold on to Jermaine Ifedi and maybe get rid of like a Michael Dunn or something like that.
We'll throw this out there too. And I was going to mix this into another option, but I figured, we're going to go in a different direction. But I do want to throw this question out to you. What is your gut feeling on after this year? Which one of these guys do you think is most likely to be on the team in 2025? You got Jed Wills, okay. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, or Mo Hurst. After this year, which one of those guys is likely to be on this team?
Coop. And that's because Coop, one thing that people have forgotten is because he hasn't just been out there enough. Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper have incredible chemistry. Like in every game that they've played together, there have been moments where you're like, wow, they really understand each other. They really work well with each other, right? Even going back to when Deshaun was coming back from suspension, when Amari Cooper was out there, he was making plays to Amari Cooper pretty consistently. And I would love to, I gotta do the math, probably do it today, maybe even make a video about it later today. So I told you about Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson, what their numbers will look like over 17 games, just based on what they've already done. And if this team is on a win now trajectory, if they do live up to expectations, which is they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, a serious one, then they're going to do what it takes to bring back Coop, because Coop's going to be a vital part of that. And you just can't replace that chemistry. And honestly, it's also the intelligence of Amari Cooper back there, right? Like he's able to draw up things with Deshaun. And the one thing about Amari and the one thing about Deshaun that is true is both of those guys are football heads. Like they love watching football. They love breaking down football. They love talking about football. And when those two get together, they figure out ways to beat coverages. And that's the kind of next level stuff that will get you past a Kansas City, that will get you past a Baltimore, right? When your best wide receiver isn't passive and he's not waiting for the right call to be called in, and he's like, nah, we can actually do this. I've seen them, like they've been in quarters all day. Let me hit them with the hitch at 10 yards depth, and then let's see if one of those safeties bites. If they do, we'll take over top, and if not, we'll run like a backside dig on the oppo side to kind of just come back to occupy that space that they didn't take up that we anticipated. So like when you have that kind of collaboration going down within your quarterback and your wide receiver, that's something that you cannot replace, right? Ultimately, Maurice Hurst is something that they're probably going to replace with Michael Hall, and Michael Hall is probably going to be greater than that. Jed Wills, they told us this year he's not as replaceable as we think, right? Because we thought he would be easily replaceable in the second round this year. That's not the case. But you can still draft a tackle in the first round next year if you want to, or you can extend him. But I think Amari Cooper is the guy that they're like, nah, that guy, we got to keep him if we're trying to win right now.